Yo!
That is Logan Morris.
Omaha!
Featuring in the producer's box, Peggy Lohr.
Hi.
And we have two guests this week, Mad Mike.
Nope.
And for the first time on Race Appeal Radio, Matt Nicholson.
Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is AJ Appeal, and this is Race Appeal Radio, episode number 51, titled Ready in Advance. We are thrilled to have our great friends with us for the first time, Advance Auto Parts. Thank you for being here with us as we tune into our 50th episode. Advance Auto Parts gets you back on the road. Gentlemen, lady, we're going to start with Tyler Lawler. How are you all today?
It is the greatest day in the entire world. It is Tony Stewart Day.
It is Tony Stewart Day, and why do you say that? As we say hi to our good friend Thomas Bertram in the comments section.
Well, think about it. Xfinity 8.
He did drive the 8 car in the Xfinity series a little bit, just a few starts, absolutely.
Right. 14.
Yeah.
Obviously. And then 20. 8, 14, 20.
That's Tony Stewart Day.
It's Tony Stewart Day, guys.
Logan Morris. Happy Tony Stewart Day.
Happy Tony Stewart Day, Logan.
How you doing, Logan?
There's some holidays I choose not to celebrate, as is my right as an American. This is going to be one of them.
One of them as well. I guess I understand that. Mike Daffner, Mad Mike. We're going to have you on for a segment here later on with your Daffstats. Welcome back to Race Appeal. First time in season 3.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
We're glad to have you. And, of course, for the first time, we've been chatting quite a bit. Matt Nicholson, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, man. Just trying to watch this debacle of an ARCA race going on at the infield at Daytona right now.
Absolutely.
This is astounding.
I hear it's kind of wild. Or is it still raining down there in Florida?
It's not raining right now. They're at the halfway break right now, getting the pit stops done. And actually, Sam Mayer just done a driver change. But, yeah, it's a debacle.
A debacle. That's fair. That's more than fair. I can imagine, NASCAR for so many years now on road courses, they've said that the drivers are allowed to have their windshield wiper, their one singular arm wiper. And, that being said, it's not usually used. Some drivers have conspiracies that it gives them a better aerodynamic advantage. Are they using those on the infield today?
There are a few that are using them. I've seen Sam Mayer use it. Haley Giggins used hers. My brother-in-law Brett's used his, but the Venturini cars do not have wipers on their front windshield.
So none so far for some of the teams. Others there are. And, of course, we are listed officially as Thomas Bertram's favorite podcasters. Want to say hello to everybody tuning in. Of course, we are on the RTF network as well. So thanks and hello to everybody on the RTF radio station. We've even got the dogs barking today here on Race Appeal Radio. We've got an hour show, and we want to get right into things. Let's say goodbye to Mike and Matt just for a brief moment as we get into our intro. Peggy, we're going to say goodbye to you as well. We've got 3 gentlemen ready to rock. We'll be right back with everybody who just left the screen. Gentlemen, 51 episodes. We've got some great guests on the show. We're in for a real treat. What do you think?
51's an awesome number, man. That's my second favorite number. Let's get rowdy.
Let's get rowdy. Logan Morris, a little bit of a different mystical view for you tonight. What's going on with the lights out and everything, all romantic like?
Well, I'm just trying to make it pretty advanced over here, if you catch my drift. We're making some parts go around, and then the lighting seems to be a little bit of an auto, if you will. Did I hit all those? I'm just making sure.
I think you forgot a part or two.
Oh,
thank you, gentlemen. We're more than happy. I'm usually the gentleman that's going to do the shameless plugs. That was well done. I appreciate it. We've got a couple of races to cover, and we're going to bring in Matt Nicholson back for the first segment as we're going to review a couple of the races from this past weekend. We do have a couple that we're going to talk about. It's mostly a Ford-dominated weekend last weekend, and we had Ford with Austin Cindric, Team Penske, and then we had Kevin Harvick over at Michigan just sweeping the weekend. Gentlemen, we had 3 races, all dominated by Ford, but one was over at Road America. What were your thoughts overall? Let's start with our guest, Matt.
Well, Road America really didn't surprise me at all because of Austin Cindric's background with road racing. I was a little bit surprised that AJ Allmendinger didn't give him a better charge, I guess you could say. But Road America really didn't surprise me. And then again, Michigan, with the luck that Kevin Harvick has had at Michigan of late, that wasn't a surprise either.
So overall, it seems like every week, Lawler, you're going with Kevin Harvick or one of your Stewart-Haas boys on the Cup Series. You've been really consistent, and it's not just you're a fan. You know, the speed's there. Sure enough, he went and doubled it up.
Right. The Fords have what it takes. They really do. I straight predicted Harvick to win the first one. I really did think that total brain fart there. Boyer was going to win the second one.
He was up front near the end.
Yeah, I mean he started up front. He was up front for a good while and then fell to back and came back up. So I mean it's always good when Stewart-Haas gets in victory lane not once but twice in a weekend. But after Harvick won the first one, I was like, there's no way he's going to win the second one. Watch it be like a Denny Harvick show again. But it's exciting to see the Fords dominate, even though I'm a Mopar man.
We might have to start censoring that hat that you wear here on show. We're Ford all the way on Race Appeal Radio. Of course, Logan Morris is our biggest Ford friend. Logan, what did you think? Kevin Harvick with 2 more wins on this really historic season in his career.
It is no doubt a historic season. 2 equals 4, I guess, or pardon the pun, Mish again. You know, some people have a lot of acronyms for Ford, and right now the old first on race day is very accurate. Ford is absolutely bringing the power. The engines are performing great. Of course, we see Penske all around. Stewart-Haas is the Kevin Harvick and Friends show, though Almirola has performed fully. Custer had the surprise win at Kentucky. But it's the same song, same dance, that whole sort of 9. So it's just tough. It's just very, very tough.
And of course, you know, I try to cover the sport fairly, but I also have a fandom. You know, I've got my Team Penske stuff over here. I've got my Blaney and my Rusty and my Ford hat. Team Penske's one that I'm going to talk about often, but they only got that Road America win because of Cindric's essentially a road course racer. We mentioned that last week that he was going to have an amazing run. When he ended up outperforming AJ Allmendinger and some of the other guys, even Chase Briscoe, I wasn't surprised. He is the definition of what I think of when I think of the old early 2000s and late 90s road course ringers. The only difference is he's running full time with success, but his talents really are around that road course program. And I think that it won't be the last time that we see him doing well. Don't be surprised if he wins something at Daytona here soon on these infield road courses, or even if he has some Rolex success some winter. But Ford dominated another weekend of motorsports, at least in the NASCAR world, and that's something that is not easily forgotten. We're going to bring Matt back here in a little while, but we have Mike Daffner, Mad Mike, here, and we have him for a new segment called Daffstats. This is one we've been talking about for quite a while. And the reason we're talking about these so early in the show, we're talking about Kevin Harvick's dominance. Mike's been doing some hardcore research. We've got him in a lab where we haven't let him out for several days. And Mike Daffner is going to give you his world famous Daffstats and tell you what exactly is going on with the numbers in the world of motorsports.
So in careers of Cup Series races, active drivers with more than 10 road course wins. Normally, I would have just looked at historical for this track, but obviously there aren't any. Clint Boyer, of all people, has the best average finish for road course races at Sonoma and Watkins Glen in his career, and it's an average finish of 12.25. Then you've got Kyle Busch around 12.4. And then Harvick at 12.8. And after that, it's Brad Kay with 14 and Truex with 14.35. So if you really look at it, the Fords and Toyotas are dominating average finishes at road courses.
He's got a couple of sheets here. Before you go to your next one, if you're a betting man, who do you go with at the infield?
I think I got to go with Boyer. I mean, he's been really decent as of late, and he hasn't gotten a road course win, but I'm calling for him.
That's a good pick on Tony Stewart Day, Mike.
So Boyer does have that win back in 2012 at Sonoma. Overall, he's been really consistent. What else you got on your stats sheet this week?
So within the last 5 years, we're just talking Sonoma and Watkins Glen here. Martin Truex Jr. has won 3 of the races. Chase Elliott is second with 2 wins, and then 1 win each to Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, and Tony Stewart.
On Tony Stewart Day, Mike Daffner with a Tony Stewart plug. Lawler, you and I are a couple of guys who love to argue. It's really what we do on and off camera. Now we've got young Mike Daffner in here giving us the facts. It's going to make it a lot harder on us to just make up BS arguments from show to show.
You know, last week I chose Bowyer. This week, my choice, definitely not Bowyer. I don't care what Mike's stats say. Bowyer is not even going to finish top 10. He will not. But it's always cool to see stats like that show Bowyer has the potential to win the race. Or I don't know. It's going to be hard to say, but
look at Lawler all giddy about his Stewart Haas Racing boys like they've been struggling for a whole decade. Come on. You enjoy it too much. Logan, you haven't said much lately. We've got Mike Daffner in the room telling us all the facts. Maybe this will help your fantasy game.
Wow. Look, it's showtime. I think that's pretty unprofessional to be taking shots in a fantasy game. I'm not necessarily thrilled about the Stewart Haas success, but there is just no denying it. Kevin Harvick is just he's in the most dominating stretch of his career, where I would say right now he's the best driver in the world as far as NASCAR goes. Kyle Busch may be better overall, but there's just nobody hotter than Kevin Harvick and Ford as a whole. And I just don't see how they're being competed with right now. The only question I have, the only thing that's a little bit debatable is, there is such a thing, we hear it in all sports, peaking the right time. So we'll see what happens there if that is the case for Kevin Harvick and the Ford squad.
A lot of facts emphasizing that Stewart Haas is going to have that power. Mikey, what else you got for us this week?
So on the note of Kevin Harvick, and this will be our Advanced Auto Parts stat of the week, on the season, Kevin Harvick's average finish is 5.9. The next closest driver to him that's run in every race is Hamlin at 9.4.
Wow.
And if you go to full seasons, the best within the last 5 years is Kyle Busch's 2018, and he had an 8.3 on the season. So Harvick's nearly more than 2 spots better finishing in every race than Kyle Busch was in 2018, and we all remember how dominant he was back then.
When you're averaging 5th place, nearly 2/3 into the season, these are historic numbers, my friends. I'm not going to put an asterisk next to anything. I understand it's a COVID season. I understand things are different. Okay, we can have a lot of opinions on best drivers, but the numbers can't lie. Mike Daffner telling us average 5th place for Kevin Harvick after how many races are we in? 21 races into the year? Amazing stats there. You see Matt and Peggy are back on screen. We're going to take our first break, a short one. We're going to have some fan photos from this past week. When we come back, it's time for Pit Road Picks, and all 6 of us will be on screen for some great prop bets for going into the Daytona Infield weekend. This is Race Appeal Radio. are back here on Race Appeal Radio with a great crew. We call it the Super Show when it's more than just the three gentlemen. Peggy, the producer's back on screen. Matt Nicholson and Mad Mike are going to join us. Peggy Lohr with our pit road picks for the day. And you know what? Just for the occasion, we made a nice little video. Of course, they can still hear us over top of it. It's just a video, all right? No big deal. It's just a video. Peggy Lohr, what's our first question?
Well, before we get into the questions, we have a little score update.
Oh.
So last week, AJ won. He got a total of 5 of 6 correct questions. And he remains the point leader.
Okay.
He's 20 overall points. Tyler's in second with 17. And Logan is bringing up the rear with 15.
So Logan Morris last in another game. You would think we'd just feed him dog food or something.
So the first question I have is, so in the last 3 races, the stage 2 winner has gone on to win the whole race. Will that happen this Sunday?
Let's start with Mike Daffner. A real big head shake there.
No way, not at a road course.
All
There's
right.
just too much that can happen.
Logan Morris.
I'm going to go with no. This is the most unprecedented track of recent memory. There's just too many wild cards to factor in. I'm going to give it a no.
Tyler Lawler.
Well, logically, I should say no, but because I'm down a bunch of points, I'm going to say yes. Yes, yes, yes.
We're talking road course racing. Absolutely not. It'll be 3 different stage winners. Stage 1, Stage 2, and then your race winner. No for Aaron. Matt Nicholson.
I'm going to say no. There's going to be 3 different stage winners.
Absolutely. I agree. Peyton, we're going to call you Peyton the stage and me Aaron. What do you say? Let's get to our second question. How about that?
All right, so number 2. Will we have a different Xfinity winner other than Cindric or Briscoe?
Cindric or Briscoe? I'll take the bait there. I'm going to say no. Austin Cindric is an amazing plate racer. I know he's got some great competition in that series, but if we're looking at just numbers, and of course we just had our facts there, Austin Cindric's road course performance, I'm looking to see him win the Rolex 24 next year for Team Penske. Now, I know that they just dropped out with that Acura agreement, but who's to say they don't come back? I'm going to say Cindric wins. Tyler Lawler.
Well, I'm with you there. I definitely think that one of those 2 Fords are going to be in victory lane. I would absolutely love to see Briscoe in it just because that is the SHR boy. But I don't think he's going to have what it takes. He won that road course off of fluke, in my opinion. The stuff in front of him were happening. It's going to be Cindric. Cindric's the winner. Bada bing, bada boom.
Matt Nicholson.
I don't think it's going to be Cindric or Briscoe. Quite honestly, I'm looking at Andy Lally driving the Our Motorsports 02 car because he's got the most experience on the Daytona road course besides AJ Allmendinger. So I'm going to say the 02 car gets it done.
He's going with the former Cup Series Rookie of the Year. What about you, Mad Mike?
I think it's going to be Cindric. He's just absolutely dominating, and when it comes to road courses, there's no one better right now.
Not a lot of competition. Logan Morris, Andy Lally, or one of the guys, or even somebody else?
I have to go with Austin Cindric. Look, he's just dominating at an unprecedented pace right now. Not to mention, before he was dominant, he was always great at road courses. So this is his bread and butter. Austin Cindric gets it done at Team Penske 22, back to victory lane.
All right. Question number 3. So we all know how excited Logan gets about his favorite drivers. Joe Nemechek is going to be crew chief for Nemco. Will Mike Skeen get a top 10 with Nemechek being crew chief?
Let's just put us all up here on the screen. Does anybody say yes?
No.
I do.
Logan Morris, tell us why.
I do. Well, I look at it this way. It's not Mike Skeen's first truck start. He got a 16th back in 2013, I believe. And I just think, given that the trucks are so wild, they are always good Donnybrook. And you take something new, and plus, Joe's going to have a very conservative strategy because he's trying to protect the tires and the truck. I think you avoid the chaos, and he backdoors his way to top 10 at the end of the race.
We had a little bit of some maybe coming from Matt. Why was the maybe there?
I'm going with a maybe because of Mike Skeen's road course experience.
Yeah.
And then plus the 8 truck, it's even though they don't make as many starts as they used to, it's not a slouch truck. And even though he's starting 38th in the truck race on Sunday, he can still get up there because this, in my opinion, this race right here is just as bad of a crapshoot race as a super speedway race.
You know, I don't care to argue during the prop bet segment, typically, Matt, but check out the entry list. Consider this. It's typically not a slouch truck, as you worded it, and I think that's fair. But this week, they are running a 2019 Chevy instead of their Ford-powered machine that they've usually been running this year. Any second guesses or second thoughts? Or are you sticking with your guns?
I'm going to stick with my gut.
All right, they're going to go with it. Peggy, what's our next question?
All right, so there hasn't been an overtime finish in the last 17 road course races. Will we finish in overtime on Sunday?
Lawler with a big head nod.
I absolutely think we're going to finish in overtime. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a fight right out the gate in turns. What we got? 1, 2 for the lead, and I think when it comes down to it, we're probably going to go into overtime. I'm going to say twice.
Double overtime for Lawler? I'm going to say no. And here's why. We saw the Charlotte Roval do some wild things. This racetrack has had lots of different types of race cars on it, and it's so large. These cars will be separated at a much greater scale. I don't anticipate many wrecks, even if it is a little bit wet. Let's go to Mike Daffner.
I don't think there will be overtime, just simply from the fact that road course lap times are long enough for any potential wrecks to clear before the leaders would get back around.
Didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. I'm sticking with my guns. I forgot with road courses, if someone gets around, they don't throw the yellow right out.
Yeah, unless you're playing NASCAR heat, you're usually pretty safe to let the field keep running. Matt Nicholson, what you think?
I'm going to say no. They'll finish it all 65 laps and have no overtime finishes.
What about you, Logan Morris?
What has NASCAR been known to do in recent memory, boys and girls? They've been known to manufacture a little drama. And given that it's a 10-turn race on that, and you got to take the white flag, I think it's very possible that he's not necessarily the best call to call that caution. I think we get it. I'm going to say yes because the car likes to manufacture and kayfabe a little bit these days.
All right, well, that is our 4 questions for now, and I'll save the last one for later.
That's one for later. We're going to take everybody off the screen. We're going to go into our second commercial intermission. Once again, we do have an opportunity for fan shots. If you want to comment on our posts on Facebook or even down here and your choice of live stream, show us a photo of you or your friends or family, and we're going to have you featured on an episode of Race Appeal Radio real soon. We want to see you with the drivers, with your friends, with your families, with cars. Hell, we don't care if it's in your garage. This is Race Appeal Radio. We'll be right back.
every 15 seconds. For me, it's Levon Amber, Go Fast, and frozen yogurt. Don't let one of yours be, will my car start?
This is Race Appeal Radio, and it's time to move on to our next segment. We've done our Daffstats, our pit road picks. Gentlemen, lady, we're already halfway over, and it's time for NASCAR news. NASCAR news, not a lot in the news this week. You know, I'd made an executive decision this week. We're not going to talk about these unusual 1-off, 2-off, 5-off sponsorships anymore on this show. It's great for them, but we've got our own sponsors to please. Advance Auto Parts, if you click on the link at the bottom of your description, you will get free shipping on all orders over $35. Advance Auto Parts, let's get you back on the road. They're ready in advance. Seriously, though, when it comes to news, I want everybody's opinion here. Sponsorships drive motorsports. They really do. But we all come from a time where, from about 1984 until 2014, every car had the same sponsor for their entire season, with maybe one or two small exceptions. You knew that the Tide Ride was Darrell Waltrip's, and you knew that the Terry Texas Labonte was going to drive his Kellogg's Chevrolet. Now you see a sponsor, and it's possible they run competing brands the same season or even in the same team. Think about Hendrick when they ran Nationwide and Farmers Insurance for 3 seasons back with Casey Cannondale Jr. So when I see announcements making major breaking news from Adam Stern, who's an amazing reporter, and Bob Pockris likewise, about a driver getting a 3 or a 6 race deal, it's disheartening. I don't find that to be major news. But what we do have in the news this week is Brendan Gaughan recovering from COVID-19 and Spencer Davis. This is one of the major topics of our entire world right now, and we have drivers recovering and ready to get back behind the wheel. Most important of those two, Brendan Gaughan. He was expected to run all 4 major plate races, and he will be doing the road course at Daytona. Brendan Gaughan, behind the wheel, one of his final 2 starts. That's the topic I'd like to start with. Gentlemen and ladies, who wants to take their opinions on what Brendan Gaughan might do here this Sunday?
Well, I'll go ahead. Brendan Gaughan, heck of a driver, heck of a talent, but I don't know. He's gonna finish mediocre. He's I don't want to use the term he's been out of the car too long, because I mean it hasn't really been that long, but he's going to finish 10 to 15, maybe 10 to 20, somewhere in that range.
So you're saying he might not finish all the best. I understand where he's like a Michael Waltrip type. He's at the end of his career, and he chooses to run the plate tracks. But he does have an outstanding road course resume back when he was full-time in the trucks in the 90s and 2000s. Think about a Sears Point run back when he was running for his family team, that old 62 truck. You know, that truck was sponsored by some companies we don't support on this show. Matt, I've seen you shake your head yes and no a couple of times. Brendan Gaughan in his final career road course race.
I'm going to say he will be a threat, but he's not going to be like that right off the bat threat. I guess if you could say that. He'll be I could see him in the top 10 because of the big unknown of this race that we're going into. I could see a top 10 coming out of it. He'll be a bigger threat for the plate track, his last 2 plate tracks, in my opinion. So
we have that Daytona and the Talladega speed trap. We've got a couple of them coming up here soon. Lawler, check your face out, by the way. Isn't that great with the Advance Auto Parts necktie or bow tie?
I'm just trying to adjust my bow tie.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm going to agree. Logan, you've got your fingers in the air there. What do you think about Brendan Gaughan?
Oh, I was just doing some shameless plugs, or shameless pointing, I should say. Look, I think the expectations can't be too high. I think a top 20 would be great for him at this stage of his career. You have to remember how tough it is to pass with this package and just this era of NASCAR. And it's the big thing that gives him any possibility of a really good finish is there is such an unknown. That iconic heartburn turn that went so awry, and that's always possible. But realistic expectations, I don't have very high. I think he should be thrilled if he gets 20.
Thrilled with a top 20. Mike Daffner, any final thoughts on the Brendan Gaughan matter?
So obviously he hasn't run too many Cup races, road courses, but his average career finish at a road course for the Cup is 30th place.
Wow, 30th place. Mike with some Daffstats even during the other segments. He might be proving us all wrong. Top 20 even for Logan might be wrong. Something else we have here in regards to road course racing is Justin Marks. Now, this gentleman's retired twice. He's a relatively young driver, but he's retired twice. He announced today that he intends on doing a NASCAR Cup season full-time as an owner next year. That doesn't mean he will or won't race, but he looks to start a new team. And he mentioned a new sponsorship model with essentially, the way I see it, tax-funded causes. Does that sound right, y'all?
I mean, anytime that you are throwing tax money into NASCAR, I don't know. I loved seeing all of the tax money on Dale Jr.'s car, but I think I don't know. This is the first time hearing of it, to be 100% honest with you. In the back of my mind, I was like, did he buy the Levine family racing team?
When that came out, that was my first thought too. Did he actually buy Bob's team? But a lot of people underestimate Justin Marks as a businessman. He is really, really smart, and he's really, really keen. And I think he's going in it right to where he can put the right puzzle pieces together to have a pretty decent little team by the time the next gen car hits the track in 2022.
So, Matt, with your somewhat insider knowledge, and we're going to get into that here when you have our shared segment later, do you have any idea of what they're referring to when they say it'll be funded by STEM programs in public schools? Are you familiar with the press release that came out today?
The STEM programs, being funded by the taxpayer deal, really it's kind of similar to like the U.S. Air Force sponsoring Bubba Wallace. That's, in a way, it's a taxpayer-funded deal, but in a way, it's going to be – they're different. It's really, really tough to explain if you know where I'm coming from. But I'm really interested to see how he's got this business model shaped up for his specific team in general.
I think that's fair. We do have in the comments section here Eric Mullen saying Brendan Gaughan is the best interview after his barrel roll at Talladega last year. And Dan Foster saying that Allmendinger is going to win here at the Xfinity race. Dan and Eric, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. I think that I understand where you're coming from. We all know that the National Guard was a Senate-funded experience for Dale Jr., at least for several of those years, as was the MBV Motorsports Army car. And then the Senate changed some funding, and now we know where the Air Force is nearly all private funding that 43 entry for Darrell Wallace Jr. So I do understand the concept that this could be shared funds or nearly all private funds, but the press release worded it a little weird. For those who aren't familiar with Justin Marks, has a tremendous career despite being a pretty young driver. He's retired twice, once from NASCAR and once from sports cars. He's run just about everything there is, I think sans the Indy 500 and Monaco. If there's something with an engine, he's raced it, and he's had relatively decent success. To have another season and not be that chartered team from Spire Motorsports, that's a big deal and something the sport needs considering teams are shutting down. Logan, I'm going to put you on the spot here. We ask you a lot about the business concept, and last week we talked about teams shutting down. Now we're hearing that there's a new Spire team and now this new Justin Marks team. That's a net neutral, right?
Look, I think so, but at the end of the day, I think Mark's coming in, and the old saying is fools rush in. Well, you just heard Matt say he's very, very smart, so he's obviously been thinking this probably for a long, long time and just now decided to announce. Something tells me, especially, hey, Matt, he's an inside guy. Something tells me that Justin has got a little something figured out that he hasn't quite released or revealed yet because, again, if he is keen, he is smart, if he is all those things that his reputation precedes him to be, there's something there that hasn't been shown yet, if you will, a little smoke and mirrors. Yeah, that's a net, and that's good for NASCAR because we were all bummed about Bob selling the team. We were all disappointed because that's just not good for the sport. So to kind of get that back, for lack of a better term, not the same guy, but you'll take it, and it shows where NASCAR is growing and improvement as far as economically in the sport goes.
It's definitely something that matters as far as the history. Remember, Justin Marks raced all over the world, and he's been involved in racing in this country and others. Something we want to tease for next week's show, speaking of motorsports and all over the world, our special guest next week will be Bob Varsha, longtime motorsports journalist, a gentleman that's been fighting a personal battle with cancer that's been heavily publicized. He makes his return to the booth. the end of August, and he's going to be covering his first race in a while. For those of you who may not be familiar with his international work, he's the only guy that's not British that covers the Formula One and Formula E series on television. So Bob Varsha will be our guest on Race Appeal Radio next week, and I'm thrilled to be able to interview him, and we can learn kind of what's going on in his world. Finally, in the news, we have a more of an argument discussion. We're going to fast forward through a couple of the topics, and Mike Daffner, this one has you all over it. Kyle Busch versus Kevin Harvick. They're right around that average of 55 wins. Kevin Harvick, though, 10 years senior to Kyle Busch. What do you think's going to happen in their long-term careers?
I think Harvick will pull ahead for a little bit, but I do believe that eventually Kyle will catch him.
Tyler Lawler, you're shaking your head. I know Harvick's your boy, and you're not a big Kyle fan, but their numbers are amazing, historic.
If you strictly look at the stats, like you said, I mean, he's in the league 10 years longer than Busch?
So 4 years longer, but he's 10 years older.
So 4 years, 10. So we'll say 6. We'll say there's going to be a 6-year difference at the very end of their racing careers in between the two. And that's just a hypothetical number. So if you think 6 years, what Kyle Busch could do I think Kyle Busch hasn't hit his prime yet either in the Cup Series. I think at the end of the day, Kyle Busch is going to get somewhere around 70 wins, and Harvick's going to plateau out in the next 2 or 3 years, in my opinion. So I think the next few years, Harvick's going to rack up quite a few wins. I really do, but I don't think he's going to. Let me rephrase that. I think Kyle Busch has what it takes to come out with the most wins in I don't know the term, current NASCAR or whatever we're using, since we're not talking about the Richard Petty era, where apparently
modern era, man.
Modern era. Okay, since Grand National, counted, but I digress here. Kyle Busch will absolutely have more wins than Harvick in the long haul, and it's going to go back and forth. It really will. And
I think that it's a great debate, and it's one we haven't had to have recently as far as who's better than Kyle Busch. At the start of the season, I made a really awkward prediction. I said Kyle Busch would go winless as the reigning champ, and I'm right. That's not to toot my own horn. I do plenty of that on this show. But it is to show that he's on an unusual streak of losses. I've got him the reigning champ, winless through 20-plus races. Meanwhile, the oldest man full-time in the sport, except for Matt Kenseth, has won more races than anyone. Matt Nicholson, what are your thoughts on the two of them moving forward this year and then comparing their careers at this point with the numbers?
Well, moving forward, personal opinion of mine, Kevin Harvick probably has 3 more years, I would say, solid years. I could see him being on a pace to winning 4 to 5 races a year, which would give him about 15 more wins. I could see Harvick finishing with 68 to 70 wins in his career by the time he ends. But on the other hand, with Kyle Busch being 10 years younger than him and having more longevity and having more time to spare, I guess you could say, I could see him flirting with the level of Bobby Allison and Jeff Gordon for wins by the time their careers are done.
I would definitely agree with that. Just because we went on a limb and said Kyle would have one bad year, there's not a fan alive who can say his winning streak will end his career, or winless streak will end his career. He's going to start winning races. As a fan, I say hopefully this year. As a projector of trends, I don't see it this year. But eventually he's going to win 6 to 8 races a season again. He's one of the best that ever lived. Mike Daffner, we're going to take you off screen here. We're going to bring you back. We're going to take our next commercial. I'm just kidding, Logan. I won't do that to you. What are your thoughts on the Kyle Busch-Kevin Harvick battle?
I think in 20 years, Kyle Busch will be viewed as better than Harvick. I think Kyle Busch will be in that same conversation as Jimmy Johnson, as Dale Sr., and, of course, the King Petty. I believe that wholeheartedly. But I do believe that you have to factor in the fact that Harvick is dominating in one of the most unique years in history. Check that, the most unique history. And people say, well, there's no practice, so there's no qualifying, so he's not able to dial the car in. And that's absolutely correct about Kyle Busch. But the fact that Kevin Harvick is able to do so and make it work, that's a bit of an asterisk as far as this season goes. Again, the numbers will show that Kyle Busch is better. always remember during the most unique season in history, Kevin Harvick kept on going like it was a regular year. And Kyle Busch, he was, by his extremely high standard, he was kind of slumping and didn't necessarily win the big one. And we'll see if he wins a race at all. He has one playoff point so far this season. So yes, Kyle Busch in the future considered better, but people should always remember this season, especially if Kyle Busch does end up winless.
I think these are great points. It's interesting to think that once again, Logan had to go on the record and say Kyle Busch was better than somebody. We always love those moments. We're going to take our next break. When we come back, we're going to formally introduce our new friend, Matt Nicholson, and he's going to tell some tales from the track. This is Race Appeal Radio. We are back here on Race Appeal Radio. We have Matt Nicholson, and you, young man, work for ISC. You've worked with radio and PA, and even know our good friend Russell Branham, who you and I have chatted just a little bit about. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do within the sport, and then I understand we're going to talk a little bit of some stories from the track.
Yeah, what really got me started into it is in 2016, I joined a FM radio show based out of Birmingham, Alabama at the time. It was called The Fastest Hour on Radio. It was on I think it was a 200,000 watt radio signal that stretched all over North Alabama and almost to South Alabama as well. And the gentleman that I joined the show with, Steve West, he is still the lead PA announcer at Talladega. Well, in 2017, the other gentleman that was doing it, Dustin Harmer, he decided he wanted to just take the weekend off. Why, we don't know. We still haven't known. And after he took that weekend off, he is yet to be seen. He just abandoned Alabama and moved back to Maryland. So they kind of got in a crunch. It really wasn't a severe crunch. And Russell and Steve was communicating, thought, well, who are we going to get to fill in? And Steve said, give him a shot, talking about me. Just give him a shot, see what he does, see how he does, and go from there. And it was August. Actually, it was about this time in 2017 when I had went and actually met with Russell and Grant Lynch and just talking about the whole deal. And probably 45 minutes later, I walked out with my ISC hard card.
That's amazing, and that's something that people don't come easily by. I want to take a moment here. We're going to add everybody on screen because we are short on time. This young man, I want you to tell everybody what all tracks you represent and have worked with ISC on, and then we're going to, as a team, pick out which track we want to hear a good tale from the track about.
I started out at Talladega, and then in 2018 picked up Darlington Raceway. And then in 2019, really within a 3-week span of the start of each race, we picked up Richmond for the fall, and then picked up Homestead, Miami for the championship weekend last year.
Homestead for sure, right?
Homestead, yeah.
All right. We all love the championship weekend. I think many of us were a little bit heartbroken when they announced that it was going to go to Phoenix instead. I'm sure the West Coast fans love it. Tell us your favorite memory or memories from working the Ford Homestead weekend.
Oh, wow. I'm going to say probably one of the better memories that I had was walking into the actual PA booth at Homestead, Miami. When you walk into the PA booth at Homestead, Miami, the lobby of the Homestead Miami Speedway where the office is, it actually looks like a hotel lobby, like you would say a Westin or a Hilton hotel. It is extremely immaculate. And I don't know of any track that could be any better that I've been to personally. And then you go up to it's actually not on the very top level, it's the third level. And you're basically walking into a hotel lobby. The home facility at Homestead Miami is immaculate. The staff down there at the time, Neil Gaucus, Al, I forgot his last name, Al, the track president. You would think when you get to Miami, you're going to get with people that just think they're better than everybody. But they weren't. They were as much hospitable, nice people that you could ever come across. But probably I'm going to say the craziest story from Homestead Miami. The best part was, for me personally, was actually being on the mic and pointing out to when Brexton Bush got in the car with Kyle and doing the victory lap. After the race was over with, Kyle won the race. Nobody could see what was going on. And I threw the binoculars up and looked and called it out over the PA system and said, if you'll look down to where Kyle Busch's car is, you'll actually see his son Brexton getting in the car, and they're going to take a victory lap. And that was pretty cool to get the call that. But the other PA announcer that was down there, you probably have heard this name before, Jim Trado. He's hard to describe because Steve and I, we have a system that we use and we work at Talladega, Darlington, and we've carried it over to Richmond and Homestead. We have a system that we did, and Jim basically pitched a fit like a 4-year-old and didn't like our system that we did. He wanted to use the system that he used that he and Bob Dillner and the other guys that do the ARCA broadcast, and even trying to take some things that he does at Motor Racing Network. Well, he just didn't like it. And he just sold up and just like a 3-year-old sitting in the corner when they don't get a piece of candy before they go to bed. That's the best way to describe it. But that weekend in general, probably for the years, even though with the virus scare this year has kind of had everything out of whack for us, it's probably last year is probably going to launch us into picking up more ISC tracks in the future, because our system that we have, let's just say the system that we have impressed the president of MRN very, very well, and they're looking at potentially going to one traveling PA team.
So we talked about that earlier. Once something's more concrete, I think that's something we'd love to continue chatting about as far as like the ins and outs. Not a lot of speculation, though. This is somewhat breaking news. That's really cool to think, especially that call with Brexton. That's a shot we've seen historically since he won. And, that young man, we just joked about his winnings. And he even here in the comments, it says Kyle Busch is better than Harvick. And then the other guy says Harvick's the closer, Kyle's the whiner. Kyle Busch has such a great 50-50 on this sport. And, even when we add in 2 more people into our feed, there we just split the vote again as to whether he's a great driver and champion or not. Kyle Busch is certainly a great talk. So for you to be able to be a part of that call and that photo that we all love so much, I tell you what, we appreciate you having these trackside tales. This isn't our last one. I want to keep putting you on the spot, and we'll have you back for more. We're running low on time today. We are going to have one more pit road pick. We're going to bring back Mad Mike and Peggy Lohr. Let's take a very short break. When we come back, we've got one more pit road pick, and then it's time for closing time already, gentlemen and lady. How about that? This is Race Appeal Radio. So what she's saying here is pretty much that if you click that link underneath of the video and you get anything from Advance Auto Parts, even an Autocraft battery, you're going to get free shipping on orders $35 or more. How about that?
We are so live. Look at all the life in these people today.
I love it. Peggy Lohr, you have one more of these great pit road picks. Is that correct?
That is correct. So the last question. There are 6 current drivers who have raced on this track. It would be both Busch brothers, Jimmy Johnson, Matt Kenseth, Ryan Newman, and Martin Truex Jr. Will any of them win on Sunday?
I'm going to take the bait first. First of all, if we go back to 2005, Martin Truex Jr. ran this in an IROC car, and he had an amazing run. Martin Truex Jr. has not ran the track since, but hell, half the field has never seen it even in a video game. I'm going to say, yeah, sure, give it to him. Tyler Lawler, you've got the ball cap on, the Mopar hat, huh?
Well, you know, I didn't hear Chase Elliott's name in that, so I'm going to go ahead and say no. Unfortunately, I really, for some reason, think Chase Elliott's got the win this weekend.
What about you, Logan Morris?
6 drivers, and there's 6 pretty good ones. Give me that. Yeah, I'll take it. Yes.
Mike Daffner.
I say no simply because I didn't hear Boyer's name on that list. I think he's going to win it.
Matt Nicholson.
Kurt Busch.
He's saying Kurt Busch. So that's a no to the Martin Truex question. Peggy, we have 5 great questions, and I look to maintain this great point lead I've got on this. Is that a thing still? Let's see what else we have in the comments here. Dan Foster saying Kurt Busch is the highest, will finish the highest, though. That means he's got Kurt Busch winning it as well. He's matching Matt's pick. Thank you all very much. We're going to take our final break. When we come back, it is already time for closing time. This is Race Appeal Radio. Closing time, brought to you by our friends at Advance Auto Parts. This is a great show. We're so glad that we had some new faces and some familiar ones. Of course, we're closing in on our hour on the RTS Sports Network, so it's about time to log out. We're still going to finish our show with closing time. If you're listening to us on our podcasting family of apps or our YouTube Live, we will be closing here at the end of this segment. For anybody looking for a little more bonus content, we have a great game called Guess the Driver, and that will be exclusive to our Facebook page. Meet us on over there in about 5 minutes, and we're going to get one more game in for the week. As far as closing time itself, we're going to welcome our guests first. Thank you for coming in. We're going to start with Matt. Your final words for episode 51 of Race Appeal Radio.
Really appreciate y'all having me on. I enjoyed it and getting to talk with everybody and have a little fun tonight, and looking forward to the chance to be on again sometime soon.
Mike Daffner, Mad Mike with Daffstats tonight.
It was awesome being here. Love bringing you guys these stats. Go Advance Auto Parts.
Peggy Lohr in the producer's box. You did a great job tonight. We are proud to have you back. What's going on in your head for your final thoughts?
I'm just looking forward to watching Sunday's race and seeing the first one ever.
First one ever. And Logan Morris, she mentioned that first one ever. I know you've become a fan of the road courses. What are your final thoughts heading into the road course weekend?
Well, my final thoughts are, first, I just want to say thank you to Matt and Mike for coming on. Great to have you guys both. Mike, I love you. Matt, pleasure to meet you. Thank you to Advance Auto Parts for grouping on. We do appreciate that. And as far as the road course goes, look, it's the unknown. That's the greatest fear of all. But I don't fear it. I'm looking forward to it this Sunday. Nothing like it. Let's get to it.
Tyler Lawler, final words here on episode 51.
I want to say thanks for Matt for joining the crew today. Mike, we can be without you for all I care.
Right back at you, Lawler.
I got 3 numbers for you. 8, 14, 20.
And he's, of course, mentioning that it is, in fact, Tony Stewart Day, according to the Racing Numbers Twitter page. For my final thoughts, we're getting here at the end of the show. we've got a lot of people to thank. I'm going to put them here in order if I can. At the top of your screen, Matt Nicholson. Thanks for joining for the first time ever. Second in line, can I point at him? No, wait a minute. Let's get a little more product placement out here. Let's put one over Matt's face, one over my face. How about that? Advanced Auto Parts, thank you so much. We're glad to have you on here on Race Appeal Radio. Remember, if you click that link, free orders they're not that friendly. Free shipping on all orders over $35. To this young man right here, Logan Morris from the Clayton Compound Live. You did great. And Mike Daffner with his Daffstats. He made our minds go wild. Of course, to young Peggy Lohr. She gave me an award today, and I want to take a little bit longer at my closing time here.
You skipped right over me.
That's not true. I hit you. Now, so I don't usually publicize this, but I turned 29 for the 4th time last week. And for my birthday, Peggy Lohr got me a Dundee Award. And if you can sneak up here, AJ Appeal Motorsports Aficionado. And that will go right next to my rock that says, suck this. My Toby Flenderson rock. So I appreciate it. It will go right with all of my office belongings. And that is more than cool. Thank you very much. To our friends at RTF Sports Network, our 2nd week on air, we appreciate it. We're going to have to buy into their programs for another hour because this whole 60-minute stuff, it's a little bit wild. Let's do one more as we're finishing up here. One more ad lib. Are we all ready for this? First, we have only shown this once per show, and we always have a lot of fun in the closing segment. It's a little out of the script. First, I only played this once. If you're watching online, this is the greatest GIF we've ever made. All right? From last week's show, if you haven't checked it out, type in on YouTube, is that dog food? And you will find the greatest video you've ever seen, and it's of our good friend Logan Morris. Second, Advanced Auto Parts. Perfect. Got that one in. And then third, I'm going to have Tyler Lawler take it away. At the very end, I want you to ad-lib for Brittany Force. Ready, set, go.
There's 15 seconds, 14 now, 13 and 12. We drive really fast. We eat some ice cream. Don't forget the batteries. They're really good. Think ahead, guys. Think Advanced Auto Parts.
We're all fired. As I always say at the end of every show, do me one great favor. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Smile. Be happy. And until then, take care.